The Archer and Pine Podcast, featuring stories about Black artisans, designers, and creators.
And welcome to the Archer and Pine Podcast. My guest today, Terina Nicole. How are you, Terina Nicole?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be here.
You have the kind of name where you have to say it all together. It's like my name, Marc Clarke. You got to say Terina Nicole together. And the good news is you can go to terinanicole.com, so it does make sense.
Makes it nice and easy.
It makes it nice and easy. And we want to welcome you to our podcast and welcome you to Archer and Pine. And so, Terina Nicole, you will be actually on Archer and Pine, on our archerpine.com. People will be looking at the Jypsea Leather Goods, correct?
Correct.
And that's what, so you've been working with them for quite some time. Tell us about the products. They look amazing.
Thank you. So I have been designing probably my entire life. I went to college for fashion design. I graduated from the Fashion Institute of Technology, better known as FIT, in New York City. And from there, I went on to work in the fashion industry, designing footwear and handbags for different brands. And in I started my own line kind of haphazardly many years prior to graduating FIT. It wasn't really that I wanted to be in business for myself. I just already had a ton of materials. I was always very inspired. I was already a self-starter. And at one point I was living in Atlanta designing for a line of women's wear that had been around Atlanta for many years. Oh, it was on the tip of my tongue. She was the first independent designer in Atlanta. And by the time I was hired by her, she had been around for about 10 or 12 years. She had about 6 or 7 independent stores throughout Atlanta. And I was her pattern maker and assistant designer. And one of the projects she gave me was to design some handbags because she had all these small pieces of fabric that went along with the collection that she had already finished. And so I did that for her, and I was inspired to go home and do the same thing for myself because I also had huge bags of small pieces of fabric. So I created 7 styles over the weekend. You know, I saw her on Friday. When I showed back up to work on Monday, I created 6 or 7 different styles. I photographed them. I put them in a catalog. I gave them all wholesale prices, and I just showed up to work like that. And she was so impressed with me that she put me in touch with her factory to have my pieces mass produced. And, it just kind of went from there. And so it was never really an intentional decision to start a business. I didn't even have a name for it at the point, but I was just always doing more than what I needed to do. I was always doing a lot. I was always inspired. My weekends weren't spent partying. They were spent designing. That's just what I was always passionate about.
So say, your tombstone to say, Terina Nicole doing the most.
Doing the most, doing the absolute most. It was just something that I just lived and breathed. I just always enjoyed making beautiful things. And so, there were many things that happened in the interim, but basically I did come back to New Jersey. I finished my degree at FIT. I opened a boutique, and by that time I was pretty certain that I wanted to spend a little more time sorting out what I wanted to do as a designer, as an independent designer. So I was working in the industry, but I also was running my own little boutique, and I was, making bags and getting into wholesale accounts. And so I got some press in the very beginning. I was in Upscale magazine, within maybe 2 months of being in business for myself. And so now that people were paying attention to me, it was just important that I took it a lot more seriously. So I don't know, life happened, and I started other businesses, and I got married and had a child and got divorced. Like life happens, and you kind of put things aside until the opportunity arises to restart. And so in 2008, 10 years ago almost, during the Great Recession, I was laid off from a company in New York City called Capelli, New York, that I was designing handbags, accessories, and footwear for. They just completely downsized. And I just decided from that point that I was just not going to depend on corporate America for my well-being. By this time I had a toddler to take care of. I had a mortgage. I had, expenses. And to show up at work knowing that you're doing an amazing job and to still have a pink slip, to me, was just really unsettling. And it wasn't the first time it had happened to me. And I just never went back to designing in the corporate world. I've done some freelancing, but never as a full-time designer again, because I just felt like I would rather put those eggs in my own basket.
I love it.
So 2018 was kind of the rebirth of Jypsea Leather Goods, and I've been plugging at it ever since.
And you see, what I love about your story is you just have innate talent, obviously, because people recognize that. That's why you always get snatched up. You have amazing drive. I mean, with fit, the thing I noticed, it reminds me of like Juilliard and Berkeley. A lot of the talented artists that start off there don't finish. They kind of get caught up in a project and they're off. So the fact that you actually finished up, I think says a lot about you. The fact that you kind of like, again, have this gift that you just, go, like you said, you weren't partying on the weekends. You were whipping up amazing creations. So that says a lot. And like you said, you exemplify the phrase, they really can never pay you what you're worth when you work for a company, because you put your heart and soul into it and your creativity. So I'm with you. Putting the eggs in your own basket is the way you're going to make all your money anyway, because no one's going to really pay you what you're worth. So we're excited. Absolutely. Tell us about your love affair with working with leather and creating with leather.
Well,
or is there a love affair?
I got to give FIT the credit for that, because up until that point, I was a fashion designer. And so I worked with many different textiles. I wasn't introduced to leather and fur and skins until I changed my major from fashion design to accessory design. And that's where I studied handbags, small leather goods, and footwear. And as you know, because leather just has the durability that other fabrics don't have, that's primarily what our shoes and our handbags and our outerwear and our sneakers are made of. And so FIT really delves deeply into the study of tanning process and all of that. You go to furriers and you spend time at tanners, and you learn all that there is to learn about using natural skins. And I fell in love. I was just obsessed. Like the texture, the smell, the colors, the vibrancy. Once I was introduced to working with skins, there was no going back. The only problem I then had was the ethical portion of it, because, part of it is that most people don't know that an animal is killed for its meat. And the leather, the skin of the animal becomes just a byproduct. So no one really kills, a deer for its skin. No one really kills a cow for its skin. They kill it for beef. They kill it for, venison. They kill it to feed us as, humans, consumers of meat. And then the skin, instead of discarding it, it becomes what we wear. And so in that mindset, you realize that you're not doing a disservice by using leather, because no one's killing the animal for the leather to begin with. But to take it to another level, so that I was even more eco-conscious, I primarily use leather from recycled means. So whether it's someone throwing out a leather couch, I'll, take the leather off of the couch. If I go to a thrift shop or antique shop and there are leather coats and leather jackets and leather skirts, leather pants, I'll snatch it up, and recycle that already used, discarded leather material into the accessories that I design for Jypsea Leather Goods.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Is there anything close? I know because there is such outrage. Is there any textile that is close to the natural skins at all?
Well, there are a lot of things that are happening in technology that's really impressive. They're taking all types of, like the DNA of different plants and altering it in labs so that it has the feel and the texture of leather. And, that's something really interesting to look into in the future. I mean, right now it's still very experimental. And to me, there are tons of leather jackets and coats and skirts sitting in thrift shops that, will eventually find itself in the, in the trash heaps. And so, I find it more accessible to use those skins. I mean, of course, if someone wants something very custom, very distinct, I'll still go to a supplier and get exactly what a client wants. But there's so much available that as much as I'm interested in what technology is doing, because it's not as accessible at this point, it's easier for me to just get discarded skins and reuse them and make something really beautiful and unique out of them.
Well, again, I'm looking at your work. It's amazing. We're so glad to have you on our platform, Archer and Pine. And, man, I'm going to have to grab me up one of those items for the home, I saw a blue chair on your site that's off the chain. And I love those pillows, but so excited to have you again. Jypsea Leather Goods. Look for them. Terina Nicole, if they want to reach you, what's the best way to reach you?
The best way to reach me is always through social media. The Terina Nicole is my handle on both Twitter and Instagram. And on Facebook, there's a Facebook page for Jypsea Leather Goods. But always email is fine, Terina@terinanicole.com. And my website, terinanicole.com, I update regularly with classes and workshops that I teach. Because I love to teach as much as I love to design. So I teach people how to make their own leather goods and accessories and jewelry. And I blog about it as well. So there's a blog there. So please stay in touch and reach out. I'm very friendly. And it's just a pleasure to be here and to meet your followers as well.
Archer and Pine, circulating the black dollar since 1921. Go to archerpine.com now.